She was petite, with a gentle, refined beauty. You could tell just by looking at her that she was the kind of sweet, well-mannered girl every mother dreams of. On the other end of the line, I could hear the sheer relief in my mom's voice. "Lucas, you've finally come to your senses," she said. "Your father's health has taken a turn for the worse several times over the years, all from the stress of you being gone. We're just so glad you're finally coming back. Once you and Sophia have a child, everything will be perfect." I looked up at a cluster of moths fluttering erratically against the glass of a streetlight. Suddenly, a memory surfaced. The whole reason I ran away from home all those years ago was to escape this exact kind of preordained fate, to avoid having a leash snapped around my neck. When I first met Olivia, I truly thought I had hit the jackpot. Over the 7 years we were together, I watched her transform from a naive girl into a mature woman. I proposed to her several times, but she always deflected with a simple, "It's too soon." The truth is, I had a nagging feeling that something was wrong for a long time. I just lied to myself and pretended I didn't see it. Back then, I was such a fool. I genuinely believed she was as loyal and committed to me as I was to her. But as it turned out, I couldn't have been more wrong. In the end, I took a cab home by myself. Despite my cold shoulder, Olivia must have felt a sliver of guilt because she came home not long after. The moment she walked in the door, she saw me getting rid of things. All those model kits I used to treasure, I had pulled them all out and was casually tossing them into a trash bag. "Aren't these your most prized possessions?" she asked. "How can you just throw them away?" Olivia stared at me with disbelief, watching me purge my belongings. I mumbled a vague reply, just wishing she would hurry up and take a shower. Jerry never wore cologne, but right then, I felt like Olivia was covered in a scent that wasn't hers, a smell so sickening it made me want to gag. She didn't say anything, just stood there stunned for a moment, completely oblivious to what was wrong with me. Then she started talking, almost to herself. "Maybe it's for the best. You can always buy new ones when they're released. Or we could save them for our new house. What do you think?" Her voice, soft and a little sultry, made it sound like she was genuinely planning our future together. She snuck a glance at me, trying to gauge my reaction. I knew exactly what she was doing, but I played dumb. Normally, I would have walked right over, wrapped her in my arms, and showered her face with kisses. But now, every time the thought of kissing her entered my mind, images of her and Jerry flirting would flash before my eyes. I felt like a scavenger, picking through someone else's trash. My coldness quickly doused what little enthusiasm she had managed to muster. She's always been perceptive, so of course she could tell I was angry. But because I was always the first one to back down, the first one to try and make things right after every argument, she had gotten so used to it that she didn't even bother trying to comfort me anymore. Her half-hearted attempt tonight was a rare concession. Olivia went into the bathroom to shower, but her phone, left on the nightstand, started buzzing nonstop. It was driving me crazy, so I instinctively picked it up. It was from Jerry. He had sent her a series of wedding photos of the two of them. In the pictures, Olivia looked stunning and impossibly slender in a wedding gown, bathed in a soft, ethereal light. The way she looked at Jerry was filled with a tenderness and adoration I hadn't seen in years. A dull ache spread through my chest, a choked-back rage that I couldn't put into words. So that was it. All her impatience, all her annoyance, was reserved just for me. For the longest time, all I wanted was to see her in a wedding dress. I'd spent a small fortune ordering several different styles for her, just hoping she'd be in the right mood to try one on. I had imagined her walking towards me in a white gown countless times. But every single time, she stood me up. "They all look the same," she'd say. "You know how much I hate trying on clothes." What's the point? I can still picture the slight frown on her face as she said it. Back then, I was naive enough to believe she was different from other girls, that she didn't care about trying on dresses because she trusted my judgment completely. But looking at these dozens of photos now, the gentleness in her eyes wasn't an act. With the camera pointed at her, there wasn't a trace of impatience. "What are you doing?" A cloud of steam washed over me from behind. Before I could even react, Olivia had snatched the phone out of my hand. She shoved me away with a surprising amount of force. "Don't you have any respect for privacy?" Her face was flushed from the heat of the shower, but her voice was as cold as ice. I looked down at my palm, silently watching the thin line of blood well up from the scratch her long nails had left behind. The cut was already bleeding. The truth is, even if she hadn't come out, I wouldn't have scrolled any further. I'd already seen enough of their ambiguous texts, the ones they'd exchanged from late at night until the early morning. So many nights, I'd wanted to shake her awake from her deep sleep beside me. But every time, I'd raise my hand, and a wave of numbness would wash over me, making me give up. Who would have guessed that in our 7-year relationship, our message history would look like a monologue, with me just talking to myself? Every once in a while, when the mood struck her, Olivia would grace me with a reaction emoji. I used to tell myself it was just her personality. She was too lazy to type, and using emojis instead was kind of cute. But looking back now, I see I was nothing but a clown, a complete doormat she could replace at any moment. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice low and steady. "I shouldn't have invaded your privacy." I made a point of apologizing sincerely. Olivia froze for a second, clearly not expecting that response from me. "Those photos," she started. "It was just because Jerry said those dresses looked nice on me, so I tried them on. Don't get the wrong idea. Besides, you've always wanted to see me in a wedding dress, right? And anyway, with what happened to his sister, he said he just wanted to see what she might have looked like in a wedding gown." As she said this, she pouted, pressing herself against my chest and tilting her face up towards mine. "You're not angry, are you?" "I'm sorry." I listened in silence, letting her use these clumsy excuses to try and smooth things over. Jerry's sister, Jenny, used to be Olivia's friend. Back then, Olivia was at a critical point with her startup, struggling with funding and projects. Jenny was driving through a storm to deliver a flash drive to her when she got into a car accident. She didn't make it, dying shortly after she arrived at the hospital. Before she passed, she grabbed Olivia's hand and made her promise to look after her younger brother, Jerry. Olivia always kept her promises, and she truly did take care of Jerry, attending to his every need. In the beginning, she kept a respectful distance, always polite and proper with him. But at some point, that changed. She started getting involved in every little trivial detail of his life. I sighed softly. Thinking about how I was leaving in a few days, I decided it was better to just get it over with and not drag this out. "There's no future for us like this," I started. "Honestly, if you ended up with Jerry, that might actually be for the best." Before I could even finish, Olivia's head snapped up, and the sharp crack of her palm hitting my face echoed in the room. "Are you insane?" she shrieked. "Jerry only thinks of me as a sister. Do you really think everyone is as messed up as you are?" My cheek burned. She was right. Jerry certainly wasn't messed up like me. I was the one who swallowed every one of her transgressions, never complaining, always forgiving her out of habit. My nose stung and my eyes burned. I clenched my fist so tight my nails dug into my palms. I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes, and her tone softened immediately. "I'm sorry, that's not what I meant." In that moment, I suddenly found the courage to put all my cards on the table. "Olivia," I began, "in a few days I have to go." Her phone suddenly rang, cutting me off. Olivia answered, and the voice on the other end was perfectly clear in the cold, quiet bedroom. "Olivia, I had a nightmare. I dreamed my sister was in that car crash all over again. I woke up and I just really needed to see you. Can you come over?" "Okay," she said instantly. "I'm on my way." Her voice was tense. She threw on a coat and started for the door. Just before she left, she seemed to remember something and turned back to ask, "What were you trying to say earlier?" But my resolve had already vanished. I was calm again. "It's nothing," I said. "We can talk when you get back." When I woke up the next morning, the other side of the bed was pristine, with no sign that anyone had slept in it at all. Since I only had a few days left before I was leaving, I went ahead and quit my job. I'd packed up most of my things the night before, planning to donate almost all of it. As I was carrying a box out to give to a delivery guy, I noticed a lot of commotion coming from the apartment across the hall. Movers were going in and out, carrying in brand new furniture. Even with all the people, I spotted Olivia right away. She was nestled into Jerry's arms, leaning against him as she directed the movers where to put each piece. Olivia was always someone who obsessed over the little details. When we moved in together, she did the same thing, even taking a day off work just to supervise the movers. If a home isn't set up right, she used to say, it never feels like anything more than a rental. But now, there was hardly a trace of her left in my home. Sir, here's your tracking number. The delivery guy's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. The people across the hall clearly heard us talking. Moments after the delivery guy left, Jerry appeared at their doorway, grinning. Hey, Lucas. Olivia said I've been having a lot of nightmares, so she bought me this apartment. I guess we're neighbors now. He leaned in and patted my shoulder, acting all cheerful and familiar. But this was the guy who had cheated with my girlfriend. There was no way I was going to be friendly to him. I ignored him and turned to go back inside my apartment. Suddenly, as if he'd lost his mind, Jerry punched himself square in the face and stumbled backward. With a loud thud, he crashed right into one of the movers carrying a large cabinet. His lower back slammed right into the sharp corner of the furniture. "Ark!" Jerry screamed in agony. Hearing the noise, Olivia rushed out and immediately helped him to his feet. The concern in her eyes was palpable as she gently blew on the bruise already forming on his cheek. Then she looked up at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Lucas, why do you always have to be so violent? What is wrong with you?" Jerry's face went pale, and he quickly tugged on her sleeve. "Olivia, don't blame him," he said. "It's my fault. I shouldn't have moved in and bothered you guys. Lucas just acted out because he cares about you so much. I'm just a burden on you both." "You're not a burden," Olivia said instantly. "You're my brother." When she blurted that out, a sharp pain pulsed in my temples. No matter how many times I witnessed the deep bond between these two, it was just sickening. I tried to go back inside, but she put her hand out to block the door. "Lucas, you need to apologize to Jerry." I couldn't hold it in any longer. He punched himself in the face. "And you want me to apologize?" Olivia shot back immediately. "Jerry wouldn't lie to me. You're a grown man. Can't you at least admit what you did?" I laughed, a cold, bitter sound. She only ever believed the version of the story she wanted to hear. Beside her, Jerry put on a show of trying to mediate. "Please don't fight because of me. I'm sorry, it's true, I did it myself." But Olivia just squeezed Jerry's hand tighter and glared at me. "I can't believe I never saw this side of you before. You're this kind of person. Men like you make me sick." Her stare was like a tiny, sharp blade, methodically carving little cuts into my heart. In the end, I didn't apologize. I couldn't. Jerry kept groaning about his back, so Olivia ended up helping him downstairs to get it looked at. Watching them walk away side by side, I suddenly remembered something. I needed to go to the hospital too. My sleep had been terrible lately. I'm not sure when it started, but I was spending most nights staring at the ceiling until sunrise. I tried every home remedy I could think of, but nothing worked. Finally, I resigned myself to seeing a doctor. The hospital wasn't crowded today, so I got my prescription filled pretty quickly. On my way out, I saw Olivia and Jerry in the main lobby. It wasn't really a surprise, I guess. It was the closest hospital to our apartment. Olivia, with her stunning figure, was practically draped all over Jerry, holding a pharmacy bag in one hand. It was no surprise that plenty of guys nearby couldn't stop staring at her. "What are you looking at?" One pregnant woman muttered to her friend. "She's got a man who takes care of her. If you're jealous, go take it out on your own husband." I overheard the jealous muttering from a woman nearby. Jerry looked a little embarrassed, a sheepish grin on his face, but Olivia seemed completely unfazed. We met at the elevators. I didn't say anything, but Jerry was the one who put a little space between himself and Olivia, his face flushing slightly. "Lucas will get jealous if he sees us like this," he said. Olivia frowned. "You're in pain. Do you not need my help?" Then she suddenly turned to me. "What are you doing at the hospital? Are you sick?" I held up the prescription bag. "Insomnia." Olivia thought for a second. "I'll have my assistant buy you some lavender to put in the bedroom." She looked like she was about to say something else, but Jerry cut in. He clutched his lower back and started groaning in pain, his face contorted as if he'd just been stabbed. The elevator was descending when it suddenly lurched with a loud bang and shuddered to a halt. At the same instant, the lights went out. In the total darkness, Olivia let out a small scream. She's afraid of the dark, and she's claustrophobic. My heart clenched, and I called out to her instinctively. Olivia? Olivia, are you okay? I heard her let out a small, trembling. In the dark, I heard the rustle of clothing. Olivia, hold on to me. It's okay, Jerry. I'm here. His gentle voice was comforting her in the darkness. I couldn't help but smile bitterly to myself. Years ago, Olivia and I got stuck in an elevator just like this. The lights died, and we were trapped between floors. She was shaking uncontrollably then, too, breaking out in a cold sweat. Olivia rarely lost her composure in front of others, but that time she had thrown herself into my arms, clinging to me for dear life. She was like a frightened kitten that couldn't be alone. But now, she didn't need me anymore. She had given all of that trust to Jerry. I was lost in the memory, the feeling of her soft body pressed against mine. But she herself had just shattered that fantasy with her own hands. Jerry, as long as you're here, I'm not scared. I don't know how much time passed before the lights flickered back on and the elevator started moving again. The second the doors opened on the ground floor, I pushed myself off the wall and stumbled out. I drove straight home, ignoring the pictures of wedding venues my mom had just texted me. I just sat on the couch, watching the hands of the clock tick by. I have no idea how long I sat there before Olivia finally got home. She was holding a bundle of lavender and a takeout bag. I opened it. It was a bowl of shrimp wontons. Olivia had obviously forgotten I'm allergic to shrimp. She was the first to apologize. See, I do care about you, she said. I even remembered you hadn't eaten. You should eat it while it's hot. I opened the container and ate every last shrimp wonton. It wasn't long before my skin broke out in red welts. Oh, wow, you're allergic to shrimp, Olivia exclaimed, covered her mouth with her hand. But I ignored her. Tomorrow is your birthday, I said. Come home so we can celebrate. She looked surprised for a second, then nodded quickly. I got up to find my allergy medication. I'm not a guy who ever learned to cook. My skills are terrible. The only dish I could ever make properly was a bowl of birthday noodles. But for some reason, today I couldn't get a single bowl right. I kept messing them up, one after another. I didn't want to waste the food, so I just frowned and ate my failures. I calculated the time. As soon as Olivia got home and we celebrated her birthday, it would be time for me to go. But I waited all day, and by nightfall, she still hadn't come home. When she finally called, it was to yell at me. You idiot, she snapped. Jerry burned his hand cooking. I have to take him to the hospital. You can eat without me. Her lies were always so transparent. I couldn't see her main Facebook posts anymore, but on my burner account, a news story popped up. It was a photo of the two of them standing in front of a cake, with colorful streamers frozen mid-air. The picture captured the exact moment they were smiling at each other, holding hands. Hello, are you there? Olivia was still on the line. I let out a long, slow breath. It's fine. Take your time. I used my burner account to like her post, and then I scraped the birthday noodles from the table into the garbage. Olivia didn't love me anymore. Letting her go would probably be a relief for her. I dragged my suitcase out of the apartment. On my way, I went through my phone and carefully selected every intimate, suggestive photo of Olivia and Jerry I had. Then I dumped them all onto my Facebook page. Enough of our mutual friends would see it. The right people would see it. I was leaving, and I had no intention of letting them off easy. Right before the plane took off, I sent Olivia one last message. Happy birthday, and goodbye. I didn't use the word breakup, because in 7 years, she had never once publicly acknowledged me as her boyfriend. So I guess I deserved to be cheated on. I was the blind one who fell for her and never looked back. A second before I powered it down, my phone blew up with a storm of calls. My hand slipped, and I accidentally answered one. Lucas, what the hell did you just post on Facebook? Delete it now. Where are you? You get back here and apologize to Jerry this instant. I just held down the power button until the screen went black. It was laughable, really. She almost never answered my texts, and I always made excuses for her, telling myself she was just busy. Now I knew the truth. She saw everything. She just couldn't be bothered to reply when it had to do with me. My mom was the one who picked me up at the airport. I hadn't seen her in years. She was wearing a red dress and looked vibrant, as radiant as ever. but I could still see the subtle signs of age around her eyes. She pulled me into a tight hug and said I must have had a hard time all these years. Even though I'd run away years ago, my mom and I had never completely lost touch. So she knew all about the messy entanglement between me and Olivia. She saw things even more clearly than I did, and had predicted long ago that Olivia and I would never last. I didn't believe her then. I did now. On the drive home, my mom filled me in on all the family news. I knew most of it already, but I listened quietly as she talked. The moment I turned my phone back on, it started buzzing like it was having a seizure. I didn't answer a single call, just switched it to silent. When I met my mom's questioning gaze, I just said calmly, "Spam calls." My mom looked at me like she understood, but she didn't press the issue. She didn't pry. With the wedding date so close, my schedule was suddenly packed. I went with my mom to look at venues, and then I went to meet Sophia, my fiancée, to take our engagement photos. Standing in front of the mirror in the fitting room, I looked at myself in the tuxedo and felt like I was looking at a stranger. My mom's eyes were rimmed with red. She raised a hand to dab at the corner of her eye. "Lucas," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "our Sophia is 1,000 times better than that Olivia girl." I nodded, though I wasn't really paying much attention. I've dealt with people far worse than Olivia in my life. This was just one more thing to get over. To my surprise, Sophia, my bride-to-be, arrived right on time. Seeing the person from the photograph step into real life felt surreal for a moment. "Hi," she said. Sophia greeted me with a bright smile. She was charming and energetic, her eyes sparkling as she looked me over, a friendly grin on her face. It immediately warmed up the slightly reserved aura she had in her photos. "Thank you," I replied. I looked down and straightened my suit, feeling a little awkward. My mom quickly jumped in to break the ice. "Now that you're both here, why don't we get a picture of you two together?" Sophia looked to me for approval, and I nodded. My mom happily snapped a picture of us with her phone. She's always on Twitter, so she posted it right then and there. The caption read, "My handsome son," with the photo of us attached. Who would have known that her simple post gushing about her son would actually go viral? It quickly started trending with a few hashtags, like hashtag Bernaris Wedding and hashtag Sophia and Lucas. My mom was ecstatic. She even sent me screenshots of all the supportive comments people were leaving. "Let's see that Olivia girl see who's really out of whose league," she said. The truth was, I didn't care about any of it anymore. She had never loved me, so how could she really hurt me now? But then, unexpectedly, she sent me a message. I had blocked her main account long ago, but somehow she managed to find my burner. She sent the photo of me and Sophia, and then immediately tried to call me. I could hear the wind howling on her end, like she was standing on a street corner. "So you packed up and went home for that woman?" she spat. "Just because her family has money? Lucas, I never took you for a gold digger. I know you're just jealous. Come back to me now, and I'll marry you. I mean it." I glanced out the window at the moon. It was a sterile, silver disk in the sky, completely devoid of warmth. "You're right," I said. "It's because she's rich, she's beautiful, and she knows how to be sweet. She's 100 times better than you, and no man wants to be cheated on." On the other end of the line, Olivia's breathing grew heavy, like she was trying to wrestle down a furious animal inside her. Her voice was laced with venom. "I bet she doesn't know, does she, that you slept with me? That I was pregnant with your child? Don't all those rich girls care about things like that? Who would want to use goods? Lucas, I'm giving you permission to break up with me now." A sharp, throbbing pain seized my chest, and my eyes started to burn. The first time she got pregnant, my immediate reaction was to go get a marriage license and make her my wife. But she refused, accusing me of being sexist, of treating her like nothing more than an incubator. I was speechless, and in the end, I had no choice but to agree to the abortion. And Olivia always knew how to twist the knife. Every time it came up, she would dig into that old wound and give it a hard twist. It took me a long moment to find my voice. Maybe she sensed my silence, because her tone softened slightly. "Lucas, we've been together for so long. Can't you just come out and say it? That you don't love me anymore?" She sounded like she was about to say more, but then I heard a man's voice in the background on her end. "Olivia, This lace lingerie set would look amazing on you. Come try it on. I couldn't stop myself. I laughed once, then hung up the phone. And for good measure, I immediately deleted that burner account. Still fuming, I raised my hand and slapped myself hard across the face. The only reason I got close to Olivia in the first place was because of a promise. But if I could do it all over again, I would never have made that promise. Back then, Olivia's mother lived next door to my family. I had just run away from home and was struggling to adjust to life on my own. She took really good care of me, always offering little bits of life advice. It was through her that I met her daughter, Olivia, who was only 18 at the time. She was a total rebel back then, and she hated school more than anything. We weren't close at first, not until her mother got sick. Olivia's mom knew she didn't have much time left. On her deathbed, she grabbed my hand and made me promise her something. Please, just look out for her for me. I promised I would. And so, I stepped into that rebellious girl's life, and step by step, I fell into her trap. 9 years of my life. I think I've more than fulfilled my duty to look out for her. Lucas? What are you thinking about? It's almost time to go out there. My mom patted me gently on the shoulder. My dad threw a huge engagement party to celebrate my return home and the formal arrangement with the Byrne family. The crystal chandeliers overhead were so bright they were blinding, making it impossible to see anyone's face clearly in the crowd below. Glasses clinked all around us, and the air was filled with the constant pop of camera flashes. I've never been a fan of having my picture taken, so I instinctively flinched away from a sudden flash. But Sophia stepped in front of me just in time. She was a good bit shorter than me, so she didn't block much of the light, but to everyone else, it probably looked like she was leaning into me. Sophia smiled up at me, looking warm and kind. If I had met her first, all those years ago, maybe everything would be different now. There were too many strangers at the party, so I nursed one drink and pretended to be tipsy, using it as an excuse to slip outside for some fresh air. Thin clouds parted in the night sky, revealing a cold moon and a few scattered stars. In the pale light, I saw someone walking towards me. It was Olivia. She looked like she'd lost weight. Jerry was right behind her in a suit, following her like a shadow. Come with me, Olivia said. It wasn't a request, it was a command. She'd always been like that. I didn't bother to reply and just turned to walk away. She grabbed my wrist, her nails digging into my skin so hard I winced. Let go of me, I said. I've already apologized for the photos. What more do you want? Olivia's eyes were red-rimmed. I wanted to laugh, but I was too tired to even smile. Jerry's boyish voice chimed in. I'm so sorry, Lucas. It's all my fault you two are fighting. Please don't blame Olivia. She really does love you. He sounded so sincere. From inside the party, I could hear faint laughter and the clinking of glasses. It drifted out into the courtyard, a stark contrast to the cold silence between us. Olivia, I said quietly, we can't go back. What are you talking about? We've known each other for 9 years. And what do those 9 years mean to you? She demanded. Don't you want me? I'll marry you. I'll even have your children. Her words were a bitter irony. You said being pregnant would trap you, so you had an abortion. Then you immediately flew off to a resort with Jerry. Did you think about me for even 1 second then? Olivia was stunned into silence. Jerry started to open his mouth to defend her, but I shut him up with a hard punch to his shoulder. You're a grown man. Stop talking like a little kid. It's embarrassing. Jerry's face went white, and he looked like he was about to cry. Olivia instinctively let go of my wrist. It's not like that, she stammered, her voice fading. He's just my brother. I couldn't even look at her anymore. In the distance, I heard Sophia, my Sophia Byrne, call my name. Lucas. I pushed my feelings down, put on a smile, and walked over to her. Do you know her? Sophia asked. Do you? I asked back. Not really, she said. I just know she's the daughter Mr. Adler only recently acknowledged. The wedding was only a few days away, and there were still a ton of errands to run. Sophia was incredibly busy with work, but she insisted on coming with me. I didn't know her well enough to refuse, so I just agreed. We passed a custom jewelry shop where the sales staff were almost alarmingly enthusiastic, practically pulling me inside. Their smiles were so genuine, I felt bad saying no. The store was cozy and romantic. I stood at the glass counter, looking over the rings one by one until my eyes landed on a specific design and stopped. Sophia spotted it too and was excited to buy it, but a wave of apathy washed over me. I stopped her. Let's not. Let's go. Just as I turned to leave, I heard a familiar voice from behind me. Lucas. The sales clerks gasped as if they were watching a scene from a movie. I turned around and looked coldly at Olivia. She was holding the very same ring in her hand. She looked flustered, out of place. This ring, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Do you remember it? How could I forget? The third year I knew her, our first year as a couple, I designed a ring myself. It had a sapphire as the center stone, and I'd planned to engrave our initials on the inside. The design was simple, but for a novice like me, it had taken several all-nighters to get it right. But for one reason or another, I never actually had it made. Olivia took a step closer, reaching out for my hand. The other people in the store started to cheer, a chorus of "Say yes." "Say yes," growing louder. Everyone in the store, except for me and Sophia, seemed to think they were watching some grand romantic gesture. The noise was getting on my nerves. I jerked my hand away from her. The ring flew out of her grasp, hit the floor with a clink, and rolled directly into a nearby trash can. The store went completely silent. "Miss Adler," I said, my voice low and even, "please have some dignity." As I said the words, Olivia began to tremble. "Lucas, isn't this what you wanted? To put a ring on my finger? We can get married right now. We can be together forever." "It's too late," I said. "It's far too late." If she had said this to me on any night before I saw her with Jerry, before I found out about the secret abortion, I would have put that sapphire ring on her finger myself. Olivia looked as if she'd just been jolted from a dream. "Is it the ring? Is it too simple? That's fine. I can have a new one designed for you. I'll get you anything you want. I know you're just jealous of Jerry," she rushed on. "Don't worry. There's nothing going on between us. There never will be. That's enough," I said, cutting her off. I reached for Sophia's hand, and she took it, her grip firm and supportive. Olivia reached out to stop us, but her hands grasped at empty air. Behind me, a commotion erupted. She was on her knees, frantically digging through the trash, like a woman possessed, searching for the ring. I never thought Jerry would have the nerve to show up at my parents' house. Luckily, the staff stopped him at the gate. His usually boyish face looked gaunt and pale, and for once, I could tell he wasn't faking it. "Lucas, please, don't let Olivia make me leave," he begged. I glanced at my watch. I had an appointment in 10 minutes. "She's not my problem anymore," I said. The words seemed to flip a switch in him. He started struggling wildly, his eyes turning dark. "You bastard. It's your fault Olivia doesn't want me anymore. She loves me. It's me she loves. Who the hell are you to take her from me? My sister's dead. I have nothing. Can't you just let me have this one thing?" He was hysterical, laughing one moment and sobbing the next. "Your sister had it coming," I said flatly. Jerry froze. Then, as if a memory hit him, he started to shake uncontrollably. "Your sister stole the flash drive that was meant for Olivia. She died in a car crash, trying to run away with it. And you," I continued, "you knew the whole story. You've been living off Olivia's misplaced guilt all this time. You've had your fun. Now it's over." The man in front of me just kept shaking his head, refusing to believe it. "No, that's impossible. You're lying." A woman's voice came from behind him. "Is it true? Everything you just said?" Jerry was shaking like a leaf. I had no desire to stick around and watch the fallout. It was time to go. Sophia's car was already waiting at the curb. I quickly opened the car door. Olivia reached for me, but Jerry suddenly grabbed her, holding her in a tight, desperate hug. "Get off me!" she screamed, kicking him away. For a second, I was reminded of that night outside the police station. I got in the car and closed the door, sealing out the noise. Sophia turned to me. "Are you okay?" she asked. I forced a casual smile. In my peripheral vision, I saw Olivia's hand slam against the window, pounding on the glass. She was screaming something, but I couldn't hear a word. The soundproofing in this car was incredible. The car pulled away. I leaned my head against the window, watching in the rearview mirror as Olivia ran desperately after the car. But she couldn't keep up for long. Her energy gave out, and slowly, her figure shrank and then disappeared from the mirror. I closed my eyes. The night before the wedding, I was about to go to sleep when the housekeeper knocked on my door. "Sir," she said, "there's someone outside to see you." She explained that a woman was waiting at the gate, but that my mother had given strict orders for everyone to ignore her. The housekeeper had a soft heart and couldn't bear to leave the woman out there, so she came to tell me in secret. After she left, I walked over to the window. From my room, I had a perfect view of the front gate. Olivia was standing there, dressed in a thin coat, leaning against a car and shivering in the cold night air. As if she could feel me watching, she suddenly looked up towards my window. Her eyes, which had looked so dull and lifeless, suddenly lit up. I pulled the curtains shut. I called the head of staff and told him to get rid of her. I could hear commotion downstairs. Olivia was shouting my name from the driveway, her voice carrying in bursts. The standoff lasted for at least 10 minutes. Then, a loud clap of thunder shook the house. "Never mind," I said, calling the staff back. "Just leave her." He was sweating, his shirt already damp and wrinkled. "Sir, she refuses to leave without seeing you." "Ignore her," I said. "She'll leave eventually." Outside, it began to rain. I couldn't see Olivia in the driveway anymore. The staff had just chased her off the property like a stray. She had always been so proud. I figured she'd be long gone by now. But I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of thunder and pouring rain. I looked out my window, and under the lone streetlight, in the downpour, Olivia was still there. She was staring stubbornly up at my window, swaying on her feet, looking like she could collapse at any moment. But devotion that arrives too late is worth less than nothing. I went back to bed. I slept deeply that night, and I didn't dream at all. The next morning, she was gone. Downstairs, the stylist commented on how easy it was to work with my features, getting me ready in minutes, but I couldn't bring myself to care. I put on my tuxedo and went with my family to pick up Sophia. When I lifted her into the bridal car, her waist was so tiny I could wrap one hand completely around it. The wedding venue was filled with flowers and applause. The weather was perfect, the sunlight clean and bright. Under the approving gaze of our parents, I took Sophia's hand and began to slide the ring onto her finger. Wait! Every sound in the venue stopped. Every single guest turned to look at the entrance. Olivia was standing there, wearing a wedding dress. It was a new design, but it only served to highlight how gaunt she looked. She wasn't wearing any makeup, and she had dark circles under her eyes and hollow cheeks. She took a few steps forward before the security guard stopped her. Mr. Adler, the head of her family, was in attendance. When he saw Olivia burst in, his face went pale with rage. He looked livid. "Lucas," she called out, her voice echoing in the silent hall. "I'm here. Will you still marry me?" The guests erupted in shocked whispers. I fought to keep my expression blank, turning to Sophia, who was frozen beside me. "Stay serious," I whispered. I slid the diamond ring onto her finger. Olivia just stood there, swaying slightly, the ring she was clutching in her own hand shaking uncontrollably. I walked down the aisle towards her. A flash of joy crossed her face, but her bloodshot eyes were almost frightening to look at. I took the ring from her hand and threw it onto the lawn. "I don't want used things." A strange light flashed in Olivia's eyes. She reached into the bodice of her dress and pulled out a small knife. The guests in the front rows saw it and started to scream. She was incredibly fast, but she wasn't coming for me. The whole place erupted into chaos as she lunged directly at Sophia. I tried to intercept her, but I was too late. "Look out," someone shouted. A few people grabbed for her, but they missed. But at the very last second, the knife that had been aimed at Sophia, Olivia twisted it and plunged it deep in her own stomach. Blood bloomed across the white dress, but it wasn't Sophia's. The dagger was buried in Olivia's abdomen, and her hand was slick with her own blood. She looked at me, her voice a wounded whisper. "Lucas, it hurts." In that moment, I suddenly remembered a time, years ago, when she'd insisted on cooking and ended up cutting her finger. She had looked at me with the exact same innocent, wounded expression then. She had done it on purpose that time, too, just to get me to feel sorry for her. But this time, I wasn't going to be the one to hold her hand and patch her up. I rushed to Sophia's side to check if she was hurt. Luckily, She only had a few shallow scratches on her arm. Someone in the crowd was already calling 911, while others rushed to Olivia's side. I could feel her searing gaze on my back, but I never turned to look at her. Olivia was carried away on a stretcher, and our chaotic, ruined wedding somehow managed to drag itself to the finish line. I didn't see her again for a long, long time. I heard through the grapevine that Mr. Adler had her confined to the family estate. I also heard she tried to kill herself several times, but they always managed to save her. Later, a rumor went around that Mr. Adler had even brought Jerry in to try and talk some sense into her, but it didn't work. Apparently, Olivia stabbed Jerry over a dozen times. He was barely alive when they found him. He survived, but he was left permanently disabled. I heard bits and pieces of these stories, but never went looking for more details. I was busy living my own life. Another one of my birthdays came and went. Sophia wanted to throw a huge party, but I talked her out of it. Instead, she baked me a lopsided, ugly cake with her own 2 hands. I started getting into the habit of documenting my life, posting random photos on my social media. One day, Olivia liked one of my posts. After that, the only time I saw her was in the news. She was ruthless, relying on no man, and had completely taken over the Adler family empire within a year. There were also the tabloid scandals, a string of boyfriends, all with surgically perfected faces that, to a greater or lesser degree, all looked a little bit like me. Then one evening, I was out to dinner at a restaurant and saw Olivia in an intimate embrace with some guy. She saw me almost immediately and shoved the handsome man away from her. Olivia opened her mouth, like she was about to explain. She fidgeted with the hem of her dress, her fingers clenching and unclenching. By the time she composed herself, I had already walked right past her table. I heard later that she fired every man on her staff, even replacing her male assistant with a woman. She got heavily involved in philanthropy and adopted a son, naming him Nathan Adler. Olivia poured a fortune into Nathan's upbringing, and there was constant speculation that he was secretly her biological child. Why else would she dote on him so obsessively? Several more years went by, and then news broke that Olivia was seriously ill and had been hospitalized. By that point, Nathan already held most of the power in the Adler Corporation. Olivia publicly announced the contents of her will. Upon her death, half of her fortune would go to Nathan, and the other half would be donated to charity. The last day of her life was also her birthday. She said, "He told me that she was hoping you would spend her last birthday with her." The person delivering this message was Nathan himself. He was a well-adjusted kid, with none of the insecurities you sometimes see in adopted children. I had made my peace with the past years ago, but when I heard her request, I still decided not to go. I wouldn't see her one last time. I suppose I wanted it to be my final act of revenge. That night, not long after Nathan left the hospital, Olivia died. That same night, for the first time in years of dreamless sleep, I had a dream. In my dream, Olivia was lying in hospital bed. One of her hands was outside the blanket, hooked up to multiple 4 drips. It was pale and impossibly thin, hanging limply over the edge of the mattress. Then, a group of doctors in white coats rushed into the room. And then, someone brought a white sheet and pulled it up over her head. Olivia was really dead. The next morning, I woke up early to the bright spring sunlight. It was a beautiful, clear day, and the world outside my window was luminous. This story is a powerful reflection on escaping the prison of self-blame within a toxic relationship, where the absence of respect is more damaging than the absence of love. Its core message is one of reclamation. True healing begins when we stop asking if we are good enough for others and start questioning if they are worthy of us. Ultimately, it's a profound encouragement to find the courage to walk away, not into emptiness, but toward a future built on our own rediscovered self-worth.